Welcome back, my hello subscribers. Today we're continuing the conversation on that Leica Q2 alternative, the budget Leica Q2. So if you watched my previous two videos, actually three, one was like a video test just to show you the image quality. I was talking about how I've been really liking, I like the idea of the Leica camera in general, but the Leica Q being that camera that you can take anywhere with a focal length that captures things in a very documentary way. So I did do a test, and in my previous videos I showed what I would consider an equivalent through the A7C combined with the Techart adapter that enables autofocus on M mount lenses, which are lenses that you would put on Leica cameras. So with that in mind, just a quick recap, I did put the Voigtlander 28mm Ultron II f2 onto the A7C with that adapter to get autofocus, and the results were amazing. They are impressive. You rarely, there are quirks to the autofocus. You have to understand how it works because you're using an adapter. Overall, big picture, the image quality was amazing. You're enjoying these Leica quality lenses that would go on a Leica, but you're getting autofocus. And that's something not even M cameras have, and that's amazing. But we can do it through something like this, and we're not compromising too much in terms of size. As you can see here, this is still pretty small, even with the adapter. And one thing I was reflecting on as I'm doing this experiment, and it's gonna be a couple of videos on this, is that M lenses are really small. Part of the reason is they don't have autofocus. And the other reason is just the design of the lens. There's many times less elements, and we're talking about years, legacy of crafting lenses so that they are portable. And in my hands right now, I have another lens that I've been testing. So the 28 Ultron II, if you're familiar with it, that thing is like this big. It's amazing how small they made that lens, and it's very comparable. I would say 90 or more % close to that Summilux that is on the Q2, or just in general, any 28 out there. Voigtlander just has been knocking it out of the park, putting out amazing lenses. But the cool thing about using the A7C in this way that I want to highlight is that you're not limited to that 28. When you buy a Leica Q, and I'm not saying I don't want one, you are limited to that focal length. Yes, you can crop in because you have so many megapixels, but at the same time, you're not getting a true equivalent 35, 50, 75, whatever those crops are. Whereas when you use this combination, you can put any M mount lens. As long as it's within the weight that this adapter can handle, and most of them are, you can have a compact camera with Voigtlander Leica quality lenses at still a very compact size. So today, here in my hands, I have the Voigtlander 40 1.4, and this is another M mount lens, and I'll show you, I'll take it off this camera here. I want you to see how small this is. This is a ridiculously small lens, and that's with the lens hood on. If I remove it, it's even smaller. The adapter and the camera itself is already small. So this is a very natural combination to me. I think it's amazing that there are Sony lenses that are already compact, but not this small. It's crazy. And because they didn't put autofocus in these, and we're relying on this technology that pushes and pulls the lens to acquire focus. So one amazing thing in testing these lenses is, like I said in my previous videos, I am finding that by using these lenses, I am being more intentional. And I know it's a mindset, and I know it's something mental, because you can be intentional with any lens as long as you know what you're doing and you're taking your time and you're not just taking shots after shots just to take a shot, to feel like you're doing something. But there's something about using legacy glass, or glass that is just, the reputation is just well regarded, that it does force you to slow down. The adapter, even though you are getting autofocus, forces you to think about your shots more. It's very tactile. I mean, you're controlling your aperture manually. And depending on how long the focus throw is on the lens, you sometimes need to adjust the manual focus control just a little bit. But for example, this focus ring, I had never used one before, and I really love it. So even if I had to manually focus with this lens, it's really easy. But the point is, I do find myself being more intentional and just artistic. I think this gives you an artistic feel to your camera setup. And I know it sounds really dumb, because you can use any budget lens, any good lens, and do the same thing. But just knowing that these lenses have so much history and they're well regarded just makes me feel inspired, to be honest. And that's what photography should do for you. You should be inspired to do better, to get that amazing shot, to sharpen your vision, your eye, your focus of what you're looking for. So I really like this combination. And yeah, I have A7 IV and other cameras, but lately the size of this, and having a 1.4 at this size, full frame, is just so impressive. It really just, it's crazy that we have this right now. But anyway, the other thing, it's very natural to use. Once you add a thumb grip, kind of like what you would do to any Leica camera, I guess, this A7C really becomes that Leiconi hybrid that I'm trying to promote here. I just like the size and with the lens, and I've switched it. Having a 28 f2 or having a 40 1.4, I'm not changing the size. Whereas with other camera systems, when you're not using this adapter, you might be looking at a significant difference in what you're wearing on your neck or your backpack. But this feels very natural. And you could hear there, that was the autofocus sound. It's very low. It sounds like a little buzzing sound. It doesn't really bother me because I know I'm getting an amazing shot. So, super easy to use. And a little bit more about this lens. This is the Voigtlander 40 1.4. This one and the 35 1.4 are actually based on a 1960s Leica 35 Summilux. So both of those two lenses formulas are based on that Leica lens with some modern improvements. So what they did with the 40 was, you know, increase the focal length, but when you take shots with lenses like this, you see the difference right away, that micro contrast, that 3D pop that we call, the colors, the transmission, the beautiful rendering of out of focus from focus. But that's not all, because like I said, you can switch the lens. So just continue to reflect on this. I want you to see what a collection of M lenses looks like. And these are not expensive. I got this one, and you can find this one for under $300. I think I got this one for $250, and this is a 1.4 40mm, now with full autofocus, eye detect, everything. It's amazing. Anyway, I could talk about this all day. Let's say I need more telephoto. So when you look around, you dig around, you can find great bargains. And here is one that I found. I want you to see and appreciate the size of this. Just without knowing what it is. This, I'll put it in the palm of my hand. This is a 90mm 2.8 Leica M mount lens. Look at that. This is just crazy. It weighs nothing. So switching it over to this setup now. Let's see. we see the 40 right there. And this is the 90. Just barely double the size. So now I have a 90, and I want you to appreciate how compact this is. Now, this isn't the 90 that you're used to seeing. This is actually a series that was made in Canada by Leica called the Slim series, but it's still the same 90 2.8 formula. There's actually only 4 pieces of glass in this lens. That is amazing. And yeah, I didn't change the weight, and this is just as manageable to walk around with. It doesn't get a lot of attention. And now I have, this is actually from 1980s, I believe. This is the 1980s, end of 1980s. They made these for several decades, but my particular copy is from that time. And it's very easy to use. With this one, I do find that I have to use the focus sometimes, just because the focus throw is longer. And because it's a telephoto, you have to at least get it close, and then you can autofocus. So you can do it pretty fast. Now, the benefit of something like this, because the adapter has a space between the sensor and the lens that is not normal for this camera, you can, if you put it at minimum focusing distance, you actually get even closer than what it's rated for. So mine is saying it's a meter. I can actually get closer than a meter. So yeah, look how small this is. And then we'll do one more. And I will do a separate review on each lens. I do have a lot of photo samples to share with you because it's so exciting. Okay, so I showed you the 90, I showed you the 28 in the previous videos, the 40 right now. I'm gonna show you a 50 now. Now, this is not an M lens, but because you can adapt many vintage lenses or older lenses to M, you're able to do these interesting combinations. So there is a forgotten or mostly forgotten line of lenses from Leica called the R. Now, they're still Leica lenses. They were made in Germany, they were made in Canada. Same quality level. This one here is a 50 Summicron R. This one's from 1975. And I found this deal for $360. Now, that's a steal. I mean, you can go find these out there and you're gonna find them for around that price, a little bit more depending on the condition. My point is, this is a Leica German lens from 1975, and you get to enjoy a Summicron for ridiculous price. I was lucky to find this one with the lens hood and everything. The paint is in okay condition. It looks a little, dinged up, but these are solid lenses. I mean, when they made these, they were made to last decades, and here's the testament to it. Now, I had to use the adapter R to M. That was fine. It's a little bit heavier than the other ones, I will admit, but it's still within the weight limit that this adapter can handle. But for size comparison, 50 and 40 1.4. The 1.4 is still so much smaller. It's crazy. But I love this 50 Summicron. When I got it, I really wanted to see what all this fuss about Leica lenses is. And here it is with the 50. This one's a bit of a bulkier and crazy looking combination. So if it's an aesthetic bummer for you, don't get it. But I love the results from this. I actually did a photo shoot where I used all 3 of these lenses. The majority of the shots were with this one. I just love how these, in particular, this 50 and this 90 capture the sunlight, sun rays, flares, the autofocus, it's just very artsy, very documentary. I'm just really enjoying experimenting with these. And it's amazing that you can get like beautiful glass for very reasonable prices. And you can use, this is the best part, if you don't have the A7C, any Sony, any new generation Sony will handle this adapter the same way. The reason I'm using this one is because I want it to be as compact as possible, but I could just as easily use an APS-C setup. Of course, you have to account for the crop factor, but smallest full frame Sony where you can do this is this one. So I really, really recommend you try it out. Don't take my word for it, just try it out. There are quirks to it, I'm not gonna lie, but overall, it's amazing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to do a quick conversation on like what my experience has been so far using these lenses with this setup for, I think it's been a month now. So I'm kind of getting an idea, a pretty good idea of how each lens behaves, how the autofocus behaves, what works, what doesn't when I'm shooting. I've done a photo shoot with it now, and I'm fairly confident that this is an option for photo shoots. Would I recommend it as of now for like wedding photography, action? I would say no. This is more portrait focused, where you have the ability to take your time, you know, do the pose. Your subject may be walking, you know, toward you at a pretty slow speed. You're in control, basically, of those different aspects of a photo shoot. Not like a wedding where you cannot lose the shot. I would not say I'm comfortable with that yet. Maybe with more practice. But for now, casual shooting, street photography. Oh, I love the sound. It's just great. So stick around. I'll put some examples of photos right after I stop talking, but I'll be back soon to talk more in depth about each of these individual lenses that have really impressed me. They're not perfect, but that's what makes them really interesting. Thanks for watching.